So what we want to look at is converting your existing data onto Sage, and this would be if you were using a manual system and you decided to move over to a computerized system, or it might be if you were moving from one computerized system to another. This could happen either in the middle of the year, or it could happen at the end of the year starting into a new year. And we're going to just have a look in a few minutes at the slight difference that there would be if you were going from into a new year or starting in the middle of the year. So as always, preparation is everything. So I'm going to say to you that you need on your Sage, before you start to set up this trial balance, you need to set up your new company. You need to set up your suppliers and ignore any opening balance. So say there's no opening balance. Set up your customers, ignore the opening balance. Set up your bank account, so you might need to just edit an existing bank account there, usually 1200, to say, right, this is the current account that we're going to use, and you might put the account number on that. Check your VAT rates. So you would usually try to match your codes with the codes that your accountant uses. So if you don't have an accountant, or if you are going to be the accountant, what you're going to do there is you are going to check that you have all of the rates that you might need, that you have it split out between what's for resale and what's not for resale, and then for imports and so on. And that we'll have a look at where you see those VAT rates again in a few moments. Set up products if you have them, and set your program date on your Sage program to the first day of this new period. So if it's in the middle of the year, whatever the first date that you're going to actually set up on, and if it is for a new period, it would be the first date of that particular year. You need to have in front of you your closing trial balance from the old system, your customer listing or debtors listing, your supplier listing or creditors listing, and your bank reconciliation. Okay, so you're nearly ready to go. Once you've done all of those bits and pieces, and I'm going to run through those in a minute, the first thing that you're going to do before you start is you're going to match the items on your trial balance to the nominal codes on your Sage. Okay, so just let me show you what I mean by that. So here I have my trial balance. Okay, so if I just hide this guy for a second. So let's say this is the trial balance that I got from my old system or from my accountant. Okay, what I would do then is I would, let me see now, I would unhide there. I would match each of those with the codes that go with that description on my Sage. So I'm just going to move this over so that you can see my nominal code. So let's say, for example, for plant and machinery, I just move across here. I'd look for plant and machinery on Sage. I'd see that it's 0020, and I'd pop that in on my list here, just so that I'm ready, so that I have absolutely everything ready before I start. Okay, so the preparation is really important, and it makes it very easy for you to do what you need to do when you have your preparation done. Okay, so that's your nominal codes that you're going to use. Now, what I want to say to you is, if we go from that point there, if you are starting a new period, so you've had your trial balance, your profit and loss and your balance sheet are cleared out to start a new period, you will only have items up to the 3000s. Okay, if you're starting in the middle of a period and you are taking into account expenses and incomes that you've had during that year, you'll have items from the 4000s on. Okay, so don't be surprised if the trial balance that you have, if you're starting a brand new period, so let's say if your year end is the 31st of December 2017, and your new period is going to start on the 1st of January 2018, then you might only have from the zeros up to the 3000s. Okay, but you could have 4, 5, 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s if you were starting in the middle of the year. So let's say, taking the same year end, if you were converting from a manual system or from another system on the 30th of June and your year end wasn't until December, you would obviously have sales and incomes that had already happened in that year. So I'm going to do it as if you're doing it in the middle of the year, just so that you get to see everything. Okay, so before you start, I'm just going to move this over out of the way so I can have a look at my Sage. The first thing that I said was set up your company. Okay, so I've set this company up calling it Converting a Trial Balance. Set up your suppliers and your customers, ignoring the opening balances. So customers, it would be new and wizard, and you would go through the wizard. And suppliers, again, you would use your wizard, go through the wizard, set up your customers and your suppliers. And when you would come to, I'm just going to put one in here just for the sake of it. Next. When you would come to that piece about, pardon me, let me do that one more time. When you come to the piece about the opening balance, say no, there's no opening balance, and just leave it at that and just create that particular customer or supplier. Okay, so we're going to put in those balances later because we have the listing, but we're going to put that in later. So are you sure you wish to exit? Yes. So I have set up my customers and my suppliers. I've set up my company. I have gone in and here's my bank account, and let's say, for example, if you wanted to put a number on that, let's say the number of the account is 1122334, let's just say, and I'm just going to save that. Okay, so set up your bank account, check your VAT rates, so you're looking at settings, configuration, tax codes, and you can see here that automatically, because I said my company is an Irish company, Sage has me at T1 there with 23%, T3 at 13.5%, T2 there for my subcontractors, that is at 0%. I've got my T0 for 0%. We have said before that we would accept that T9 is going to be the items that don't have any VAT on them, like payments and so on and so forth. And then we can move on and we can use T11 for 23%, not for resale, and so on. So all of that is set up for you. The only thing that you need to do is make sure that every possible VAT rate that you might need is included here. Okay. If you want to change something, of course, you click on it and click on edit, and you can change it there. Again, if you have any issues with that, make sure to come back to me on it. Okay, so close that. That was checking your VAT rate, set up any products if you need them, and set your program date to the first day of the new period. So I'm going to say for these people that the first date of their new period is the 1st of January 2018. Now you can see that if I go into settings, change program date, I can change it to any date that I want. The reason I'm doing this is because I want everything just to happen on this date. I don't want to have to go in every time and change the date from today's date to the date that I want. So I'm going to set my default program date to the 1st of the 1st, 2018. Okay, so we'll call that okay. So that was our first set, that was our prep. Having in front of me then, let me pull this guy back, in front of me, I wanted to have my closing trial balance, which I have, and I've put in my nominal codes here. I want to have my debtors and creditors listing. So make sure that the amount that you have, so Fred and Joe are my debtors, they owe me money, they owe me 1,650, and that 1,650, so the list of these added together must be the same as the amount that you have on that trial balance. Okay, and likewise for your creditors, who do you owe money to? You owe 10,000 to big and 4,750 to small, coming to 14,750, and that must match your creditors figure in the closing trial balance. And if it doesn't, you need to go off and find out why there is a difference between the two before you start trying to put this onto your computer. Okay, and then the last thing that you need is your bank reconciliation. So I've just popped on here a very simple bank rec, balance per your account 12,500. That's out of your own accounts, okay, from your accountant probably. Add any outstanding check. I'm saying that there's one of 1,400, less a lodgement not yet on the bank statement. Let's say you lodged after the bank statement date, so let's say that lodgement was 300. So the bank balance, the balance per your bank statement should be 13,600. So this is what's in your own accounts, and this is what's on your bank statement. Okay, so far so good. So we're saying that we have all of the things that we needed, we've done our setup, and we've matched our items on our trial balance. Okay. Okay, so I think that I'm ready to go ahead and set up this trial balance. So I'm going to have this open in front of me, and you're going to have this on an Excel spreadsheet there with this recording, so you're going to have that. But what do I want to say to you? I want to say that everything that I have here in black, they are all going to go into their own nominal codes, either on the debit side or the credit side, as you see them on your trial balance. However, these items here, I am going to put them into suspense. And why am I putting them into suspense? Because I need to show them as debtors. But I have an actual debtors list. So when I pop them in, if I popped it in at 1650, that's going to mean that I only know how much people owe me in total. I don't know who owes me what. And that's, of course, of no assistance to me at all. So each one of these is going to go into the suspense account. So 9998, 9998, and 9998. And I'm going to do that so that I can make sure that when I'm complete, so I'm going to enter these in 9998, then I'm going to enter the actual opening balances on each debtors and creditors account, and that will actually clear my 9998. And then also I'm going to put in my outstanding checks and lodgements also there for my bank reconciliation. Okay, so nothing to it but to do it. So have the trial balance open in front of you, and we will move over to our Sage. Now, when you want to do this opening trial balance, you're going to do it on Sage as a journal. So I'm going into nominal codes, and I'm going to go into journal entry. But just because it suits me to do this, I'm just going to flick back here for 1 second. Because it suits me to do this, I'm actually going to highlight every single code here, and that's going to pre-populate my journal. So I'm not going to have to go back and forth with my journal. So you're going to look at your list, and you're going to say the first on the list is 0020. You're going to click on 0020. Then you're going to hold down Control. You're going to click on 0021, 005051, 1001. I'm going to do 2202, 2202, there it is, 2210, 2210. I'm going to do 3000, 3050, 4000. The reason I'm doing this is because it's going to automatically bring this into my journal when I go over to the journal. I'm going to do 5000, 7000 for gross wages, 7304 for miscellaneous motor expenses, and 7550. So again, I'm going to say to you that you might have changed some of these narratives here, the names here, to suit what you wanted. So for example, I've changed, I think it is phone and fax to phone and internet, okay? But you would have changed those. And of course then finally, I want my suspense account. Okay, so when I've highlighted all of those, and guys, you can do them one at a time, but when I've highlighted all of those and I go to journal entry, you can see that the journal entry has them all listed for me. Now, if that didn't work for you, there's no problem. You can just go in here and you can list each item for yourself. Okay, down at the bottom here, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 suspense accounts, because I know I want to do one for debtors, one for bank, and one for creditors. Okay, so don't forget you press F6, and F6 copies whatever is in the row above. So away I go. Plant and machinery is 1200 on the debit side. Plant and machinery depreciation is 800 on the credit side. 15,000 on the debit side because it's an asset, and 3,000 on the credit side because it reduces my asset. All T9s because there's no VAT element to this. And why is there no VAT element? There's no VAT element because you would have already accounted for any VAT element that there might have been in the previous accounting period. So these are just opening balances with everything done to them. My stock figure is 2,500. VAT liability here is on the debit side, it's VAT liability on the debit side is 6617. You can see that I've just skipped debtors, bank and creditors control account for the moment. Okay, you can see here that the VAT liability is a debit. I've purposely put that in there as debit just to say you could be owed money back from the taxman that you haven't gotten yet. Okay, so it could be a debit or it could be a credit if you owed the VAT man. We'll say PAYE, those payroll taxes, we'll say there's 900 due there to the taxman. The capital figure at that time is a credit. Again, it's something that the business owes to the owner, and that could be a share capital or it could be equity and so on and so forth, depending on whether you were a sole trader or a company. Then drawings, we said 500. Sales, we said 15600. Materials purchased here, I've got 500. Oops. Gross wages 1000. Miscellaneous motor expenses 333, and 80 there for the phone and internet. So far so good. And what I want to say to you is, do you notice that we have sales and purchases and expenses here in this one, because we're saying in this particular instance, I'm just saying that we're starting on the 1st of the 1st 2018 and that it's in the middle of a cycle. Okay, so that being the case, I have all of those in place, and now I just want to go to my suspense account, and I put in suspense account I put in my debtors control figure, which was 1650 on the debit side. I put in my bank current account, which is 12500 on the credit side, and I put, sorry, on the debit side, and I put my creditors control 14750 on the debit side. Credit's a good time just to have a look here that we've got our assets and our expenses on the debit side. We have our liabilities and our incomes on the credit side. Okay, you can see that there's a zero balance, so all your debits and your credits add up to each other. So we're happy with all of this, and we're going to click on save. Okay, so we're just closing that now, and you can see if I go in and do my trial balance here, okay, you can see that everything is there, except the only thing that we need to account for here is that we have something in the suspense account, and we have to get rid of that, and we have nothing in our bank, our creditors or our debtors. Okay, so what's next? Next, I'm going back to so I've everything that I needed to do here done. So now I'm moving on to my debtors and my creditors. Okay, so in my debtors and my creditors, I see that Fred has a balance of 850 and Joe has a balance of 800. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here into customers. I'm going to go to Fred, and on Fred I am going to go to balance. Okay, I'm going to make my opening balance. Do you see there? I'm not going to put a reference on it. Oh yeah, well I'll put OBAL on it. There's the right date. It's an invoice, so basically Fred owes me money, and the gross amount, not the net amount, because don't forget he owes you the full amount and the VAT has already been accounted for. You put in 850 and you save that. Okay, and save. Likewise, we're going to go into our other customer, Joe. Oops, pardon me. Joe has a balance of 800, so we're going to put that in for him. Double click on Joe, go into your opening balance, again go OBAL, so opening balance, he owes you money, you've already sent him the invoice, and that's save. Okay. Next then we're going to go to our creditors listing. We owe big 10,000 including VAT, we owe small 4,750 including VAT. So far so good. We're going to go to our suppliers. I'm going to go to big. In my opening balance for big, I'm putting in OBAL again. The gross amount is 10,000 and save. And small, I should have done my terms agreed, guys. Again, OBAL, and the gross amount for them was 4750, and save. Okay. And save and close. Okay, so now if I have a look, if I again go back and I'm going to say, let me go back to my nominals and do a trial balance and just preview that trial balance. You're going to see now that I have the correct amount in my debtors control and I have the correct amount in my creditors control. The only thing I have left to get rid of now is this item here in my suspense account. Okay. So again, I'm going to say here, I'm going to go to bank account. Okay, on the bank account, I'm going to put in the opening balance from my bank statement. Okay, so the opening balance, is it a positive opening balance or is it a negative opening balance? If it was an overdraft, we'd put it here in the payment, and if it was a good balance, we will put it in the receipt. So I'm just going to go here and have a look at my bank rec. My bank rec per the bank statement is 13600. Okay, so this is the figure, not this one, guys. That's the one that's in suspense. That's the one we want to match. It's this figure here that we're going to put in. So I'm going to say, move that back over there. I'm going to say my opening balance this time, it is a positive balance of 13600. Okay, I'm going to save that. I'm going to close that again, and then I'm going to put in my outstanding check and my outstanding lodgement. Okay, so I'm going to go to bank payment. I can leave today's date on it, and let's say the reference of the check was 12345. Okay, the nominal code that I'm going to put on here is 9998, because don't forget I want to match my suspense. And I'm going to put in outstanding, check, and the net amount on that is going to be 1400. It's going to be T9 because the VAT has been accounted for on all of these items, so you don't even have to think about it. Okay, I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to close that, and finally I'm going to do a receipt because I have that lodgement that isn't recorded yet in the bank. So again, I'm going to put the lodgement reference on it, maybe 33445. Nominal code 9998. Details, outstanding lodgement. The amount on that is 300. Again, it's T9. I'm going to save that and close. And lo and behold, there we go. We have our bank current account with its proper balance. And when we go into nominals, just click in trial balance so that you can see everything together rather than having to scroll down through. There I am with my trial balance, perfect. I've got my balance, my bank balance, my creditors and debtors balances perfect, and all the other balances were easily put in. And again, if I just go back here, I've got my trial balance total 41880. And the original trial balance total was 41880. So you know that before you start doing anything new for this year, you know that you're completed with the work that you've done. Okay, close that up. I'm going to say save that, and I'm going to close my trial balance, and of course I'm going to now save this so that even if I make a mistake over the next little while, that I'm going to have it saved. So I'm going to say file, backup. It's going to say, do you want to close all the other windows? You say yes. Would you like to check your data? Well, okay, we'll say yes, but you don't need to. Okay. When you close that, it'll ask you where do you want to save it. Now I'm going to say that I want to save this on the, no, let me make a new, okay. If you want to save it into a new folder, you have to create the new folder first. So I'm just going to say I want to save it on the desktop, and I can, so here I've got the date and the name and everything like that, but I'm going to change that name, just the beginning of it. So I'm going to keep the company, which I called converting a trial balance. I'm keeping the date and the time, and in my Sage Accounts then I'm going to actually call it opening trial balance. So if it's a thing then at a later date that I need to go back and I've made some mistakes and I want to go back to this opening piece that I know is right, I know I'm going to be able to find it there. I'm just going to go OK. It'll say backup successful, and just for completion, if it was a thing that you wanted to restore that, then you would go to File, Restore, Where From, the desktop. You would scroll down along and find opening trial balance, converting a trial balance, and you go double click, OK, and it'll say that you will overwrite anything that you have on that company. So if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but don't forget that you're going back in time, so anything that you've done in between the two will be lost unless you've backed that up as well. So do you want to continue? Yes, and it'll restore it back where you wanted it to be. Put in your manager and your 1 2 3 4, and I suggest, guys, that you use 1 2 3 4 or some other number rather than words for your password, because you know, with caps locks and things like that, you might go wrong with that. But in any case, I use 1 2 3 4 for any of my training accounts, and I'm going to go OK, and happy days, in you are. And I'm looking at my nominal codes, and there they are, exactly as I want them to be. Now, I hope that helps you, and make sure to drop me a line if there's anything that you need.